Hello and welcome to this first in a series of ADG workshops. This one is all about women. I'm Emily Cameron and I am Secretary of the ADG, and I'm coming to you from Newcastle, the traditional land of the Awabakal people. I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. The past few years have seen huge growth in our sport around the world. In Australia, our numbers have increased about 300% since 2016. This includes an increase in the number of players in female divisions. In 2016, there were 38 women who played a tournament. In 2021, there were 134. While it is great to see this growth happening, women remain at just 13% of all players. This is a problem seen around the world and is what prompted the PDGA to start the Women's Global Events in 2012. The Women's Global Event is a day for women all around the world to play disc golf and get a score against all the other women playing. Australia has taken part in each of these. Usually the events are like our normal tournaments, with men and women playing. But last year, our first speaker, Sue Summers, ran a women's only event in Perth. This year there will be a women's global event in August, so Sue is going to tell us all about her experience running the women's only event last year. Sue started playing disc golf in 2015 and had played Ultimate for 4 years prior to this. Her partner Ken got her into both sports. Sue is part of the Australian team and is also very involved in the admin of our sport. She is president of the Mundaring Club, is a Woofdoof committee member and is on the ADG board. Thanks, Sue.
I decided to run my first ever tournament with the Women's Global Event last year. And so I guess I first of all wasn't sure how long that piece of string was and how much time it might involve, and probably was I was quite busy at the time already with studies and various commitments, but I took it on and essentially learned how to be a TD as well as learning how to run a women's global event. So essentially, if I was going to talk about what I did and how you might run one too if you're interested. First, I would just say that if you're interested in running a women's global event, then just do it. Because there has been a push by the PDGA, Professional Disc Golf Association, to try and encourage women to get into running events. And so there are a lot of resources and a lot of support from PDGA, from the ADG, Australian Disc Golf, and just from the community. So if it's something you might want to try, yeah, give it a go. I think it's interesting that sometimes with running an event, there might be some discussion around how many should we run. But I personally think the more the merrier as to how many women's global events iterations we could run on the weekend that it's held. But anyway, so if you were thinking of running one, let me just draw on my experience to share what I can tell you about how to do that. So when I decided to run the event, I knew that I had quite experienced people around me. Obviously, not many other women have run events in Perth, and so most of the people I had to draw upon were fellows, guys. But I think that was one of the first things that I knew was important to do, was to draw on some mentors or draw on some help from other people who'd done it before. So definitely chat to some people who might be able to give you some guidelines and some tips and some techniques to manage the event. Also, something you would want to consider doing is working with a club or not working with a club. So if you have a club that you're in, you can draw upon them and their expertise from running events and also the club membership. So that's a good starting place. The next thing I want to sort of cover is what about goals? So when I started this tournament, I noted that I started planning this tournament. I noted that often tournaments are run using kind of a pre-existing way of running them, and usually going out to the usual, I guess, community of disc golfers. Because it was my first event, it's a women's event, and I knew that we didn't have, I think part of my driver was that a few of the regular players, female players, had dropped off for various reasons, family, injury, and there was probably like just one or two of us sometimes that were playing. So it was a little bit of fear of having two women turn up to my global event, women's global event, that made me think, okay, well, I want to get more women this year so that my event is successful as far as women's participation. So I made a decision to choose specific goals for my women's global event, and that was to try and find beginner women, and also to try and new people, as well as try to draw back some of the regulars that maybe hadn't been playing for a while. So deciding who you want at your event is a really good place to start, because then you can go, okay, well, where do I find them and how can I reach them and get them interested in playing the event? So when I decided to try and get beginner women involved, and also decided to work with Perth Disc Golf Club, I then went to pick a course, and so kind of the decisions around the course also were reflected in my choice of my target audience or my target players. So by choosing to want to tie small beginners in, it meant that I was going to want to look at a course that's a smaller course, a more beginner-friendly course, and also a format of event that was beginner-friendly, but that would also be fun and enjoyable for people who were more experienced. And so I decided to go with the Chichester course, which is a very beginner-friendly course. And the other benefit is there's a lot of people that live around there, and I'd heard anecdotally that a lot of people would be, a lot of beginners or new people that the usual community of disc golfers didn't even know who they were. So there were lots of people seeing the baskets. The baskets self-advertised for us. They're just sitting there in parks, and that's a really good tool to use, is the fact that the baskets are there. So how am I going for time, Em, by the way? 3-4 minutes? Lip reading. 4, great. So one of my other focuses was I've always been a fan of trying to go local, and I realized that with disc golf, because it's a fairly young sport, disc golf players from all around the city, all around the country, will just travel to wherever the course is. But I knew that there's a whole lot of people that don't play disc golf that would have been in the vicinity of that course. So I thought, well, how can I reach the people around the Woodvale course? And some of the things I did to try and reach them was to reach out to the local member for that area, and to see if her name's Jessica Stoyovsky, and she was really keen and happy to get involved. And she met a few of us on the course for a social round, and took some photos and shared them on her Facebook page. So that went out to her constituents in the local area. So that was one good way of doing it. On the social thing, what I also decided to do was start running a social disc golf women's group. So I started inviting, I actually made a Facebook group and started inviting women that I knew who did play disc golf, and then women who expressed any kind of interest in playing disc golf, and started inviting them to that Facebook group, and then started a regular social event in the lead up to the women's global event. So we had a little group going, so that when the member wanted to meet with us, quite a few of us turned up, and it was actually really cool for the photo that we had a few social group members, and she was able to share that out. Another thing we did was to get the community news, local community newspaper, to come down and do an article. That's, I guess, yeah, it's just a matter of if you can find somebody who might be able to be keen to help and see the benefits of the article you're posing, that it's not an ad or just some other sport or whatever. And you don't need to maybe pay for advertising. And I guess if you try and approach someone you know, so I was lucky, I think it was a friend of a friend who was in the community news, and also just kind of sort of explained the kind of some of the cool aspects of the event, like the fact that Women's Global Event is an international event, and that your players actually all get to be part of something that can be shared around the world and share some of those aspects of it. Also, the fact that we had the local member, helping us out, and so yeah, so just trying to go local and to encourage local people to get involved. I also reached out to people in other disc sports, so getting people who played ultimate, we actually had quite a few ultimate players and people who didn't maybe regularly play ultimate, but we knew people who played ultimate. So just reach out to all your networks that might enjoy and benefit from disc golf. And so that's as far as a target audience and reaching them, and choosing your core center, kind of your main things. I would also just add, I'm just a bit worried I can't see M at the moment because, oh, there we are. I want to be able to see you telling me when to stop. 1 minute, beautiful. So things like sponsors and advertising. So with sponsors, why have sponsors? Well, they can help with your running costs. They can help with you providing things like trophies, prizes to add to the appeal of your event and add to hopefully then increase your numbers of event participants. And also getting local sponsors can help increase the awareness of your event. So if you can get flyers around in your local sponsors, like we had a health and beauty studio, we had a clothing store in the local area. We had a local disc golfer who made candles, and we were able to turn candles into trophies. So they were a cool little trophy idea as well. And so don't maybe just go with disc golf related sponsors. Go with sponsors that you think your audience would be interested in, massages, shoes, I don't know, whatever connections you can find and be interested in. Alcohol for those who are over 18. We actually had some alcohol and chocolates. So yeah, they can just help you with your bottom line budget as well. So I will just add that I actually, it's one of the important things is to have a way to manage what you need to do and when. And I've actually created a Trello board that I use to manage the event, set up with a list a list with a bunch of resources on it, like all rules, guidelines, lists of volunteers, and another one with all the critical jobs that need to be done. And I made each list for the weeks leading up to the event. So I had week -15, week -14, and so you can put all those things in cards into your Trello board. And I'm actually going to try and see if I can find a way to share my Trello and make it a Trello board, make it a template. And I've also put some information into some of the cards about, say, how to look at COVID guidelines, what to do with about being child safe. I've got a bunch of resources that Anna have helped us with, and so there's a bunch of notes in there, so that way I can stop talking and hopefully I can share that Trello template with you once I learn how to do it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sue. Does anyone have any questions for Sue? I might start. So you had, I think, was it 12 holes? Would you run the short course again like that?
Okay, so I think it was 13 holes. So in my the handy thing about learning to be TD and do the officials exam that you need to do before you're TD, which is one of the things I've actually got in the notes in the Trello board. You learn a lot about what you're supposed to do to run an event. So I found that the minimum number of holes you needed to have a rated round, which is what you need for to run in the Women's Global Event, was 13. And so by running 13 holes times 2, we were able to, and also on a beginner-friendly course, we were able to create an event that would help us to run mostly in the morning. We did run a little over and be done by lunchtime, which is one of the things I got, bits of feedback I got was people who don't play disc golf aren't going to be keen on spending a whole day playing a sport they don't know. So yeah, that's why I did that. I also ran a survey after the event, and one of the things I asked was the course length good for you? And a lot of people said yes, a couple of people said no. I think I would run it again if I was seeking beginners. And on that, I'm planning to run it at Mundaring this year and run a 13-hole little loop that is beginner friendly, but also, you know, it would probably be a bit more challenging than the one at Chichester, but still be beginner friendly. So Perth also going to run one, and they're going to do it. Maybe Julie is going to run it at Chichester again. So on to the 2 different days. So we'll actually have a couple of events for people to choose from or attend both if they're super keen.
That's cool. Anyone else with a question?
Just because I might have missed it, so the resources that you have that you developed for that, you're going to make them available to all of us if possible?
Yes. So that Trello board template that I create, or the Trello board that I created, I've spent a little bit of time making it into sort of a template with all the weeks set up and with some cards with resources and critical jobs and some guidelines. I might fill a few more of those out, and you know, actually maybe anyone else who's experienced is welcome to have a wee look at it and fill it out too. Maybe it could be a collaborative thing, but I've never made and shared it a Trello board as a template before, but I'm sure there's a way to do it, and once I do, I'll share it.
And just to go back one step, for this year, did you say you're looking at, for those who are experienced, a longer course, and for those who aren't, a shorter course? Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, no, not quite. So last year I ran it. I ran the event for Perth Disc Golf Club.
Yeah.
But this year well, I newly became Mundaring Disc Golf president last year. So this year I thought it was only fair that I run one under Mundaring as well. So, but Perth are keen to run one too. And so Julie O'Donoghue and I have had a wee chat and decided, okay, let's see if we can both run one. And actually what I'm planning to do is take the same kind of model, but apply it up in the hills, because we don't have that many local women in the Mundaring area playing disc golf. So I'm keen to see if I can encourage a new membership base of women in Mundaring and the hills area.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
I just thought, just for, you know, we've got a couple of new women new to the sport in the last 6 months that might actually not know what a women's global event is and how it works. Did you want to just give a quick little explain to like your Sam and your Alex of how and what it does for disc golf and across the globe?
Hey Cassie, great suggestion, thank you. Yes, so the Women's Global Event is an event that is held usually biannually, every 2 years, by the Professional Disc Golf Association, and it is an event that's run to celebrate women in disc golf and incorporates events or local events run all around the world with an international or a global scoreboard in a way. So essentially when you play a normal PDGA event, you're all in one location and you have an event page on the PDGA website, and you have each division, and everybody on that page will have been people who played in that location. With the Women's Global Event, you have I think you have local ones as well, but you have an international or a global event page, and in each division, open, advanced, intermediate, novice, junior, and all the different juniors and masters divisions, everybody around the world who's playing in that division in their local event is present on that page in that division globally. So it's a chance to actually, and this is one of the things I used, I said to promote the event and explain how amazing it is during promoting my event, is that, hey, you know, you actually can see how you did against somebody in Canada or Japan or Oregon or Finland, and you'll all be on the same page on the same event. And that's, so one of the things I did too was make sure I share that link up before and after the event. See how you did, go check it in, because then you've got something that people can follow up later and say, oh, you know, and they can always keep referring to it, reminding themselves and taking away as a bit of a memory as well. So yeah, so and on the Women's Global event, it's not while the Women's Global event page and that scoring division kind of system or aspect is only women. Locally, you can have men or women or any gender join your event. I ran it with all women just because I was trying to make it hard for myself and give myself a challenge. And no, I really wanted to really, oh, actually, and that's not the only reason. I didn't want to just give myself a challenge. I also felt from discussing with some of my mentors and guides and the club as well, that maybe having women only would encourage more women to play a new sport. So, but Cass, is there anything else you would add about WGE?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just the lead up to the event, which is great. Like the PDGA women do a really good and notice all the countries across the world, and they advertise, and it's kind of a really good time for us women in the sport to come together and try and create events across the country and really help and, you know, raise the awareness for women in disc golf and get people out into the disc golf course. And yeah, I really look forward to every 2 years to partake in the Women's Global event. You know, you find there's a lot of pros over in America that don't participate because they're out touring, but still it gives us the opportunity to see how we actually, you know, end up against the other women across the world. So yeah, if it's definitely one that I would put on the list, and put your hand up if you want to TD an event at your local course. There's all of us women that have been there, experienced it, have done it, you know, for the part of 8 years that it's kind of been around, and you know, we're more than happy to help in any way we can.
And on that, Cassie, I would definitely welcome any of your input on the Trello template.
Yeah, so I'm more than happy to help out. 100%.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries.
I should also point out that the ADG have this year updated our TD guidelines on our website, so that's a good source if you're wanting to TD an event, to have a read through that. And we also have a TD mentoring program, so you can be paired with an experienced TD to learn the ropes. There's a list of things to go through, so those resources.
I did that. Was awesome. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sue. So while the Women's Global event is great for turning the spotlight on women in disc golf, they only happen, well, they're now going to happen once a year, but it used to be once every 2 years. And we want more women to play all year round. That's why we're all here. But we know that it can often be intimidating, especially for the newer women, to jump into playing tournaments and leagues when you're surrounded by experienced players and often males who can throw further or whatever. So Sarah Lee, our next speaker, has started up a women's league to sort of get around this. It offers a welcoming place for women to learn some disc golf skills and play a friendly game. Sarah herself has only recently started playing disc golf. She came across from Ultimate when team sports had to have a little break a few years ago. And there was a new course installed in Adelaide, and her partner dragged her out to fill the frisbee void. Sarah's quickly moved up through the divisions. Ultimate skills do help with that. And she's on the Aussie team that's heading to Croatia in August. Tonight, Sarah's going to tell us about starting that women's league. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Em. So before I start getting into all the practical stuff, I do want to spend a bit of time talking about the why behind it all, just because I think it's quite important to understand why we're doing what we're doing, so that we're not just running a league for the sake of it. We're doing it with purpose and the right intentions, and that's what's going to lead to the most success when you're looking to run a women's league. And a quick note as well on this, a lot of what I'm going to say can be applied to any kind of demographic you want to target, whether that's, juniors or masters or, any kind of group that you want to target. But for tonight, we'll be focusing on women. So the main reason we want to focus on targeting certain demographics really comes down to the conversation about equality versus equity and the difference between those. So equality gives everyone equal opportunity, irrespective of their needs and demands, whereas equity recognises the differences and diversity of people and provides them what they need specifically to ensure we can reach an equal outcome. Essentially equality is about equal opportunities, equity is about different opportunities which result in equal outcomes, and that's what we are trying to achieve here when we're looking at gender balances. So right now, disc golf in Australia is doing an amazing job in providing those equal opportunities that allow essentially anyone to play. But despite this, there's still that obvious disparity between male and female participants in disc golf. So it's pretty obvious that we need to try and bring more equity into disc golf to create that gender balance. So we need to focus more on what women specifically need to be able to start playing disc golf and look at what is going to want to make them stay as well. It's not just about getting people out, it's about retaining those players as well. So what we did in Adelaide was start a women's league, and that's been quite successful because we're able to tailor the league so that we can do whatever we needed to do with it to be able to create the best environment that supports getting more women involved. And another reason for running a separate women's only league is when you think about it, humans really look for connection and shared experiences. I'll be a bit close to the mic, thanks, Sam. Humans really crave that belonging and comfort, and so being the only woman in a group of 20 men in a mixed league doesn't always provide that connection that we're looking for.
Sorry, Sarah, you've just gone a bit quiet there. Is there?
I'm not sure.
So we can do it with you.
I haven't really changed anything. I'll just try and
A bit closer to the screen, does that
That's
help?
better.
All right, cool. So I was just talking about why running a separate women's league is so valuable, because it brings that shared connection that you don't always get when you're, one of two women in a mixed league of, 30 other guys. And so that's why I think it's better to have a separate league rather than just providing incentives for women to join existing leagues which are male dominant. That brings us to some tips on how to actually run a women's league. But I do want to stress that it's important for everyone to understand the why, so that we have some intent behind what we're trying to do to make sure what we're trying to run is successful. All right, so how do we actually start the women's league? If you've got a course in the ground, that makes it super easy. Really, all you have to do is set up a regular metrics event / women's league in the title, and there's your bare bones women's league, and that might be all you need for some women to be able to break that barrier and start playing disc golf. But obviously it's not that easy, so what else do we need to do? And the key thing is to think about who your target audience is and what the aim of the league is. So it's going to be dependent on where you are, how many people currently play, how many people we want to play. But I'm guessing for most communities out there, it's all just about trying to recruit more women and trying to retain those women and anyone who identifies as a woman. So how can we achieve that? So you really want to break that down even further, make it as simple as possible. So look at just what do new players in general need. So the obvious thing is they need some discs. So that's a pretty easy solution. Just approach your clubs, any other disc golfers in the community who have spare beginner-friendly discs around, and make sure you have those available for any new players who are coming out. The next thing is new players need to learn how to play. So as part of the Adelaide Women's League, we run coaching sessions before each league day. So just 20-30 minutes looking at real basic skills to give new players just a rundown on how to play, and that just gives them a bit more confidence when, you know, going out to and playing a course when they don't really know the sport. And another thing as well is we try to put an experienced player on each card, and that just makes sure that there's someone there who knows the course, who can teach the rules and give tips and things as they're playing the round. So that's a really good place for male disc golfers to come in and help. You don't have to play, but you can sort of follow the cards around and support them, give them tips as they're playing. And another thing to consider for brand new players is that you need to give them as much detail as you can about the events, because you know, remember that entering in a completely new and unfamiliar environment. So the more details you can give about what's happening, you know, where on the course to meet, what to bring, and exactly what's going to happen on the day is just going to make them feel a bit more comfortable coming out. Because people, you know, like to know what's happening. They don't like the unknown. So letting them know as much as possible without giving too much information is good. And then when they rock up as well, be the first person to approach them, just so they feel more welcome. Don't let them have to approach you or the group of people out. You know, just small things like that make a huge difference. So yeah, those are some examples of how to tailor the league for new players. Now, there's heaps of other things you can incorporate into your own league days. It's really up to yeah, how you want to run it. But the purpose of tonight isn't just to get new players out. We're here to try and get more women out playing. So how can we tailor a league to get more women out? So running a women's only league is a pretty good start for the reasons I mentioned earlier. But another thing you can try and do is to run a 9-hole round instead of 18. So Sue kind of touched on it a bit, but just having 9 holes makes it a whole lot less intimidating for any new players coming out. And from personal experience, just playing with new ladies, and from the feedback I got from the Women's League last year, you know, 18 holes can be quite physically and mentally demanding. And even some of the women who played casual rounds before with friends and partners and stuff, they still felt really intimidated playing 18 holes in an organised league day, because they were worried that they, you know, weren't good enough, they're not going to be able to keep up. So just changing up the format in the Women's League helped a lot. Having the coaching clinics, only running 9-hole rounds, and just being surrounded by other women made it a lot more welcoming for them. And that was just a really good stepping stone and a really good catalyst for them to get into disc golf and start playing in more leagues. So it's really good to see some of the ladies have started to transition from the Women's League into playing the mixed leagues regularly and even ADG tournaments. So yeah, that's been really good to see. And just one more thing that I would highly recommend is ask for feedback as well. Ask throughout the league. So that's what I did as part of the Adelaide Women's League. And, you know, I made some changes the next league day, because you're really doing this for the people who are playing. And so you need to make sure they're getting the most out of it. So
don't wait till the end to get feedback. Ask throughout the league so you can tailor it as you go along, because it's all just going to be a bit of kind of feel and see how you go. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Sarah. Does anyone have any questions for Sarah?
Yeah. Sarah, how do you spread the word about your league? How do you get women knowing that it's on and when it's on, and do you use social media or other ways?
Yeah, so it's mainly through social media. Just on Facebook, we make sure to put it all up on all the Facebook groups and pages. I did a bit of a survey at the end of last year's Women's League as well, just to find out what method of communication people prefer. And yeah, most people preferred social media. There are a few that wanted emails out, and also setting up a separate women's Facebook group for your local playing area or your club was something that people wanted as well. So yeah.
Sarah,
Yeah. Yes.
did you specifically target juniors or just like adults? And how would you target for female juniors?
Yeah, so I didn't really have juniors in mind. That's something I'm actually thinking of doing this year, not female juniors in particular, but
yeah, just juniors as well.
Yeah, really was just open to anyone. We weren't really targeting an age group at all. It was just kind of any women can join. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sarah, numbers, how have your numbers been?
Yeah, when we first started, obviously when you first start something, you get a lot of movement from that. So I think our largest league day was probably 12 or 13. And then last year, I think the average was probably about 6 to 8 players each league day. And we got a new player out most weeks. So yeah.
Have you been using a handicap, Sarah, for your league? Because I know for our club leagues, we're having a handicap, but I'm just unsure whether that would be a good idea for women that are just starting out.
Yeah, so with our league, so we're lucky enough to have a lot of sponsors provide prizes. So we actually have prizes for new players. So then you don't have to assign that handicap. You can kind of give it to those players without having that handicap to begin with. And then we've also got prizes for handicap and scratch scores once they've got a few rounds under their belt. I don't know if that helps.
And Sarah, is there a cost to playing the league? What?
Yeah, so last year I ran it basically as cheap as possible. So it was $5 for the entire league, and that basically just covered their insurance, because we can essentially run the league at no cost. But yeah, I did get some feedback as well. People are happy to pay more, so now we're charging $5 per league, which will allow the club to be able to use that money to build better facilities, like we're getting tee pads for the course in the park plans and things like that. So yeah.
More advertising.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm sure we've all got something from that. Then if you're thinking of starting a league, I'm sure Sarah would be more than happy to answer more questions. So it's interesting that both of our first speakers have come from an ultimate background and have partners that play. I did a little poll on our women's Facebook group, and that is by far the most common way that women were joining the sport. A few others had seen baskets in a local park or had seen it on holidays. Queenstown is a great introduction to our sport. And a couple were introduced by friends or family. One person saw it advertised. I think it was the Women's Global event that they saw an ad for that over in Perth. And someone saw it at a community day. Someone came across it on YouTube. I asked this question in the general disc golf discussion group and had mostly males answer, and it was very different. Most of them were introduced by friends or had seen it on YouTube. So I'm sure we can, if you're in advertising, there's something to take from that. Our next speaker had a very different way into the sport. It was in 1976. Gail was working at Tolstoy's, the company that imported frisbees from Whammo, and a national tour was organised with world champions Dan Roddick and Joe Cahow. Gail got to meet them and play with them and learnt disc skills, and she played object disc golf. She was hooked and hasn't stopped throwing frisbees since then. In 2018, Gail was the first and only woman inducted into the ADG Hall of Fame, and she's now heavily involved in the Victorian Disc Golf Association, and will be telling us about some initiatives that she's starting up down in Victoria with the help of a couple of grants.
Yes. Okay, now all I've got to do is share my screen and start this. Hello, everybody. Thank you. And let's see if we can do this with... Right, can everybody see that?
No, sorry, Gail, that has not worked.
It hasn't worked. Okay, we'll start again. All right. Well, why isn't it working? So just talk amongst yourselves while we do this, because Sarah and Emily and I did this before and it worked, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Someone in the chat's asked a question about having ladies versus open tees and what are our thoughts on that. So one issue that's come up in the past about that is that to get a PDGA rating on the round, you have to all play the same course. So that's a bit of a barrier if you have a smaller field playing the shorter tees. But there are ways around that, I guess. You can have the novices as well playing those shorter tees.
Did that work now?
No, that hasn't.
Yeah, depending on how many propagators you have as well, so then that would impact people's ratings for the round.
Yeah.
I think it's like a good open discussion to like eventually have, once we have more women kind of stepping up through divisions of, you know, looking at your big Aussie champs and stuff like that, like incorporating different tee pads, especially for your juniors and your novice division. Just, you know, you look at the pars of Inverleigh that we just played, you know, a couple of weeks or a few months ago, I should say. The par fives, you know, I looked back at everyone's scores, and, you know, your novice and your novice women and your juniors were ranging between an 8 to an 11, nearly a 13 on those par fives. So, you know, if we're trying to encourage our juniors and our novice divisions to want to stay and retain them in the sport, that's something where we kind of the avenue we need to go down, I think, anyway.
For Gail's parts, we've been doing that at Mundaring because we've got a big course. So we started for having two sets of two layouts, one for the more advanced and one for the less advanced novices, women's and recreational. So yeah, Mundaring, yeah, definitely something we try to prioritize.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a turn off when you can't throw over the water at Mount Gambier or over the car park when, I was an FA4, so.
Okay.
That's working now, Gail, if you would like.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm a dork sometimes. So, hello, everybody. Applying for grants and what to do when you get them. This is going to be a very, very general overview. And so, first thing is get your house in order. Is the club an incorporated association? Is it affiliated with the ADG? And an important one is disc golf a registered sport within your state. For example, in Victoria, flying discs is noted as ultimate. Disc golf isn't included, but there are ways around that. So really important is to get that happening. Also, your goals and objectives. You will often get asked for that when you start when you put in an application. So get the house in order is the very first thing. Where do you get the dollars from? What grants are around? So get on and subscribe to every database you can find on grants. And that's federal, state, local, philanthropic, blah, blah, blah. For example, Clearinghouse for Sport, you can get a daily email from them that tells you a lot about what's happening and various research that's happening, but also what grants are coming around. Check if you're on a site and they don't have somewhere where you can update, give them a call. I gave Sport and Rec here a call and they put me onto a list, but it's not generally advertised. So just so that you know, in my various jobs, I either applied for grants through state, in my state and local government jobs and community jobs, and I also worked with the state government in vetting some of those grants. So I've got a good grant background. Thinking, do your thinking now. When you get your getting your house in order, do your thinking now. And target. Don't shotgun approach for your grants. Right, what's the right grant program? Think laterally. Think outside the square and think broadly. You know, even a $1,500 grant for equipment is really worthwhile, and that often comes through local governments. We got one just recently through Manningham, where the Ruffy Lake course is. Events, marketing, there's all sorts of things that you can do. Another key thing is what resources you're going to need to firstly make the application and then run the program. People, time, running the program, evaluating. And I'll say a little bit more on resources when we get to what do you do when you get it section. Right, what else? Network. Networking is such a key thing. With disc golf clubs, with other clubs, it's the way things grow, communication and networking. What have other clubs applied for? What's the history? What have been the outcomes, issues, other advice? So share, communicate, network wherever you can. Another thing, contact the funder. If you see a grant that you think it might be possible for you, get your name known in there, ring them, talk to them, email them. The more that you can get yourself known with the grants people, much better. You're not just an anonymous email or an anonymous, I can't even say that, anonymous application. Right, what else? Letter support. Once again, very important. Don't do a generic one. Make it specific to your club and to your grant. So even if you write a draft and send it across to the organisation, do that. Make it different for each one. Don't do it a form letter so everybody's sending the same one in, and address it to the key contact in there, not to whom it may concern. This is about personalising your grant, which is why you communicate. Attachments. How many times have you heard disc what? Oh, frisbees. Oh, that's a toy. Ah, let's put some razor blades on it. All of those sorts of things. So I tell people about, in the 2 grants we got, what was disc golf through the stuff that's on the ADG, various videos that are around, stuff that you've done for your club, your stats and your successes. Put all of that in as attachments. They will have a place for it. The more that you can advertise what disc golf is and how great it is, the better. Okay, the application. Right. I'm not going to go into all of the stuff around how to do it, you know, what to put in here and here. There's plenty of websites for that, or if, you know, there's plenty of people around, and I'm certainly happy to help people. Check that, firstly, that you're eligible to apply. Really check carefully and thoroughly, right? And that will include things like incorporation and check what's been funded by the organisation in the past. There's no point putting in for something you're not going to even get a look in, and get a sense of what sorts of things they are funding and targeting. For example, in Victoria here, there was a large amount of money through the health projects, but I went in and checked what they had funded in the previous round. And even though it didn't say it on their application process, they were actually funding stuff in regional and remote areas, and particularly for Indigenous communities. So that was the focus. When I went back then to the health department's website and looked at their key goals in their corporate plan, bingo, So that really helps. It takes time. But wait, there's more. Check the key documents from the organisation, right? What's the corporate plan? What are their key statements? Does your project fit within that? And be mindful of those, highlight them, write them down onto another document, and be mindful of those and refer back to them. For example, Manningham were asking various questions in the application we put in, and I'd been through their various strategies and plans and needs analysis, and I answered some of the questions from that they were asking by saying, yes, this does. And it showed that we were interested enough to go and have a look at that information. We were real. We really wanted this to happen. We got the grant too. But wait, there's more. What are they looking for in the applications? They're looking that a need exists, that you have the capacity to meet that need, creativity, visionary, that you're going to make a difference, community appeal and support, a model which can be used elsewhere. That's really important. That you've got strong support and high success in some of the things you're doing, and key, that you've got fiscal responsibility, really key. Right, and what do you do when you get the money? If you've done all the work that you've said that I'm talking about beforehand, you're going to have a problem, right? Because you've worked out who's going to do what to whom and how and blah, blah, blah. If you don't, you're going to be like us at Melbourne Disc Golf Club and be behind the 8 ball. For the 2 grants that we put in, it was very last minute. And even though I know this stuff, I just went in and went bang and talking to a whole lot of people. And well, one of them had been partly done and we finished it, and the other one was just too good to miss. So do the work, and then you can take that next step. For us, the pandemic came in. For us, it was like, oh, what? We've got this money. Who do we do it? How do we do it? People were saying, well, women can do it. Well, the problem was we didn't have that key base of women to do it. And I certainly wasn't available to do it. My physical and mental health during that period was crashed, right? So we agonised for quite a while about that, and nothing really happened. And then, somebody give me a drum roll, then our beloved leader, Pres Jeff Brunsting, and the board started to redevelop Melbourne Disc Golf Club with surveys that Jeff sent out, and all of a sudden chaos ensued, but it was organised chaos, and we had all of these people coming in going, we can do this, we can help with that, blah, blah, blah. And then Jeff went over to South Australia and played disc golf with Gareth, and said to Gareth, oh, yeah, blah, 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 and what do we do? And Gareth said, well, why don't you start a women's league? Ding, light bulb moment. And we weren't quite ready to do that, but what we did do is start the women's social. So this is what I have sitting on my wall now. Jeff, our Pres, our illustrious Pres, who has just led this club into the next millennium, I think. So we weren't ready to do the league, but we did speak with South Australia for quite a while. And what we came up with is the women's social base to start off, start building our base of people, and they've been really quite a hit, right? It's happening, as you can see. And then next season, we're using the second $5,000 of money to morph that into the league. So we're building capacity within those women to be able to take on roles, which we didn't have the capacity in the first place. So anyway, it's just the beginning. I want to thank Emily in the ADG, or Amelia, as I like to call her, and so does her father, for her commitment and inspiration. Anthony Pearsall, who I mentioned before, for his graphics work. Bingo. Lachlan Cashman, who did the Photoshop work on that gorgeous piece of work. So Lachlan, it's your fault. And Jeff, Melbourne Disc Golf's Pres Extraordinaire. Where would I be? I wouldn't be here without Jeff. Gareth Morgan and Sarah Lee, leading the way in increasing women's participation. All our board and volunteers for making what's happening with us happen. And lastly, but not leastly, the women. Women, we're going to make it in 10 years' time. Our participation rate is going to be so high. Let's go. That's it. Thank you.
Can you show us that photo of Jeff just once more, please? I'm dying. It's so good.
Okay, I'll just let me just go back and view slideshow again. There you go. Oh, shit. There you go. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Just as well my camera's off.
Sorry, Jeff.
I'm bright red. Oh, Gail.
It's great. You need
Oh,
this.
Gail, you've done it again.
No, it was Lachlan.
It's funny. Yeah, it's very good, Gail.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Anyway,
Presentation.
thank you.
Are there any questions for Gail?
You better. Everybody else got questions.
I have a question. So $5,000 is a lot of money. This $20. So what are you spending the money on?
Okay, we're spending the money on the graphics and the advertising and discs, T-shirts, and my internet connection's unstable, a bit like me. So if I go, I'm sorry. And on the actual socials and training and developing some of our procedures as well. A little short video of about what we've been doing. And we have prizes for the women as well. And so that's what we're spending the money on, and it doesn't take long for it to go. And the second lot of money will also be, to hold the WGE here in AWG here in Vic, and also to continue on with the league, as well as continuing to enable women to increase their skills in things like TDing and admin on the various courses and all that stuff, which is happening now, but being able to support them in various ways that might need some dosh for travel costs, for training, for whatever it is we need. So that's what we're spending our money on. We're spending our money on doing. Yeah.
Gail, where can we follow what's going on with all those marvelous things that you're doing? What's the best place for us to keep up with what's happening next with Melbourne Disc Golf and your women's program?
Okay, probably our Facebook page and the blogs, and our media guys. We've got a media team now, and Sam Stower, and the others are doing an amazing job on that. So probably on our blogs, but we'll also be putting a report together about what we've done. And if anybody wants to contact me directly on Messenger, I'm really happy to have a chat to them about what we're doing and how we're doing. But I have to say, I'm not the lead person in this. This is Jeff who's leading this. I'm just his assistant. Jeff's been the driver for this, and that's okay. We don't have to have, I'm really passionate about this as well, that we don't have to separate out from the men. If the men have got the skills at the moment, then let them work with us to train up, and then slowly we can take over. And I'm really passionate. And Jeff is, and all the rest of the board and and the admin people. Do you know, Janet Ford Adams is now an admin person at our course in Bald Hill for our social days. Yay. Getting support and training from Mike Vanderlinden. And so, look, it's little steps and we keep going. But I'm happy to talk to anybody about what we're doing, and certainly the Facebook page is a good way to do it.
I'll just say that I've already found my chat with you recently about grants really helpful and helped me looking into one. So thank you. Hit Gail up, everybody.
You hit me up. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Gail. So we've heard about some excellent initiatives happening all around the country to get more women into our sport. We're going to change topics a little bit now, working on your own game. So I'm sure we all wish we could throw further, putt a bit better. So our next speaker is sure to have some useful tips. Cassie started playing, I think, in 2008, has been a dominant force in our sport ever since then. She's won 9 Australian titles and is an active member of her local club and a constant supporter of growing the sport for everyone and particularly for women. So take it away, Cassie.
Patty. This has been awesome, guys. So thanks for coming together to talk all things grants, running a women's global event and running a women's league. It's nice to see, you know, a lot of women stepping up and taking their own initiative to do this for our sport. So thank you to everyone who's taking part in helping grow the sport, especially in the women's side of disc golf. You know, I've been, as Em said, I've started playing in about 2006 and, you know, I was probably one of maybe 4 or 5 women that were active players within the whole country. So there wasn't many of us. There was Sal Hill was around, you know, another ultimate go disc golfer. We've had Em come back from, you're in the States, weren't you, Em? Yeah, and then come back and was an active player. Then we had Catherine Settler, who was Melbourne-based, who was Ian Bycroft's partner who played. So there was only a handful of us. So, you know, for me, most of my experience at the start was one object golf like Gail, because there was no, I think the only course around local for me was Whittlesea, which was, you know, Paul Arden and Stuart Jones at the time. They were running events there, and that was the one course that we could go and actually throw a frisbee into a basket. So, you know, so for me, I was out playing with the guys a lot. So I learned a lot from the technique of how a male throws to, you know, the putting. Fergs and I would go out and would be at a golf driving range and he would be teaching me how to throw a disc and so on and so forth. But, you know, I could talk for hours about where I've come from and where I am. But the most important thing about improving your game, it's not about who you play with. It's about these, and especially about what's in your bag, and is your bag got all the shots. I know for me, I've been with Innova now for 6 years, and I think over the last 2 years, I've only just got my bag 100% where I want it to be, and I only really change out my discs when I outgrow them, or when I obviously break them in too much that they're turning over or they're not doing what I want, so I will replace it with a newer disc. So my number one thing is make sure you learn your bag. Go to a field. Don't go to a disc golf course. You don't need a disc golf course to learn your bag. You've just got to go to an open field and throw. Make sure you get some unstable plastic, get some overstable plastic, putters, mid-ranges, use everything. You need to learn your bag to make sure that you've got all the shots in your bag. Another thing for me that I personally do is I spend the time out in my backyard putting, because we all know anyone can throw a frisbee. But when you get to that crucial stage of your game, it's about your putting. So, you know, I spend 35, 40 minutes a day out in my backyard. I'll mark out 5, 7, 10 all around my backyard. I'll have the distractions of my kids out there. I'll have my dog out there, because on a disc golf course, you're going to get distracted. So you never want silence. I have music in my head, my dog's running around, and if I'm not hitting my putts, then I'm not going to move from my location. So it's just consistency. I've had my Yetis in my bag now for 2 years, and I love them. And it's something that I have rarely ever changed. I think I changed from a P2 to a Yeti when Innova kind of moved away from Discmania. So, you know, they're fairly new putters for me, but I always make sure that I spend the time because it's crucial to learn your bag. So that's one huge element of my game that I believe that everyone should take the time out to know their bag and get it right. Don't keep switching out discs just because someone's like, oh, have you tried this? Like, you should try it. You should get it in your bag. That disc might not be for you. You know, you've got your Latitude Diamond. That's a great women's disc. You've got your Jade, which is another, I think it's Latitude disc. Your Leopard, Innova Leopard, a great, you know, beginner friendly disc. I still bag it. A Leopard for me is one of my go-to stable drivers, and my game would not be where it is without that disc. And I've had that bag in my bag since 2008. So I've never, you know, you can grow up from the Leopard, but I always know it's a reliable disc for me in all types of wind and rain and everything. So, you know, that's one huge crucial thing that I believe that you can improve your game with is knowing your discs, the selection of what you're going to throw. So that's a key point for me. But yeah, as I said, for years I was out playing with the guys, and I think now more than ever it's about, you know, we're having such large events within the country, and for champs, for one of them, you know, for the lower divisions, being able to follow pros and your advanced cards around and actually seeing how they play the course as well. Like, take that opportunity to go up to a pro player and say, hey, can I caddy for you? Because you're going to get a lot of experience out of caddying for someone. I know Alex did for me for 3 days over nationals, and, you know, we speak quite a bit about how much she actually took from me. And, you know, I'll post a video on social media. She's like, oh, you're throwing your race. Because she now knows my bag just from spending 3 days with me, and I was educating her on what I do on the disc golf course compared to what her eyes were for the disc golf course. So definitely, you know, don't be shy to approach people and ask questions. We're all here. We want you guys to develop and learn from the more experienced players, because we want you guys to get better, and we want more people staying within our sport. So that's definitely another tick in the box, is don't be afraid to ask questions and approach people, because everyone within the community of disc golf within Australia is approachable. So do, like, even if it's a messenger, or, you know, you're out in a course and you see, say, Matt Hill across the course, go up, approach him. You know, he's new to the sport as well. He's going to give you advice. So that's, you know, another huge one of mine is always ask. That's what I did. I always asked, and I always learned about disc selections and what they do, and, you know, how they might do it. Fly for you might be different for me, but you're still asking those questions, and you're learning about the flight of a disc and what it does. Yeah. Is there any other questions or?
Yes. So Cassie, I know that you're posting that you were getting fit and all this health stuff. Do you have a disc golf specific fitness regime that you use as well?
Yeah, so before COVID, because it's kind of hard now working from home, but I work for the Cotton On Group, and we have our own mainstream gym. So we've got PT trainers at our beck and call, which is amazing. So I actually teed up with one of the PTs at Cotton On, Courtney, who I still do Saturday sessions with, and I actually did my rotator cuff prior to COVID. So she went through and she developed this plan to make me strengthen that arm back up. So that's definitely one thing. Like, I was running, watching what you eat, going to the gym. Like, I was doing 6 days a week at the gym, you know, just strengthening. It's amazing how much, once you get your body and all the muscles turned on, how much more distance you can actually get from throwing a frisbee. So, you know, implementing your gym routine is number one. Obviously, water intake is another. Like, I'm a massive water drinker, 3 liters a day for me. So making sure that you get plenty of fluids, but gym, definitely hit the gym. You'll be amazing. It'll be amazing to see the difference from someone that didn't go to the gym to going to the gym and then throwing frisbees. Like, I noticed within myself when it's been a few weeks and I haven't been, to then getting back into my rhythm of how much better I feel about myself, not one just physically, but mentally as well. And that's what disc golf does for all of us too. It's, you know, it's good for our mental health.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
I think the other thing too is also just taking time out for injuries in case you have any. Like, I broke my right elbow in December of last year, and so I played for 3 months, and it was, you know, like, even then I was at Redtail just walking around caring for my dad because I couldn't play, but then I was seeing all these shots. I was like, oh no, I'm getting the bug. But it just even, yeah, like, I know it's difficult, but literally just putting a disc down if you have an injury is probably the best thing for you, for your body, that you can do, because you do not want to have it where you've got to that point of, you know, your whole arm's busted and now you're needing surgery, and you're even going to be more off for rehab and stuff. So
yeah,
it's just knowing your own limits within yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, you don't have to go to a gym to lift weights. You could grab a kilo bag of sugar out of your cupboard and do presses and stuff like that. Like, you don't need a gym. You can go outside and you can go for a light jog. You can run, you can do push-ups, you can sit-ups, you could do Pilates. Like, there's all different avenues of fitness that you can do if you're not a person that runs. there's different ways to strengthen your body than a gym as well. So don't, you know, over COVID, we all realized that we can't go to gyms. What do? Everyone's out walking, they're running, you know, they're opening their mind, they're happy, they're releasing the good endorphins. So, you know, all that kind of stuff plays a crucial part into your game. You know, everyone's mental game is so much different. You know, you look at so many different people across the disc golf community of how they handle, you know, that clutch putt to win a champs, or, you know, that they're going into a tied hole, you know, and they've got to play off, and that's all mental. But, you know, you need your body to be fit, you need your mental side to be good, and being outside, being in, you know, around people is a great thing. So definitely with your game, ask questions, you know, get a buddy system. Like if you're going out for a throw and you know someone hasn't been out for a while, call them and say, hey, come out and have a throw. You know, encourage people to want to be out.
I've got a question, or more of a thought. When I was a beginner, one of my greatest joys was I spent a couple of months by myself because, you know, it's new, you feel self-conscious and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I played the Aussie Disc Golf Day, was my first tournament during lockdown. And the greatest joy I had was being on a mixed card, watching some big-ass dude throw this massive crush, which I'd never seen before. But the problem is tournaments are getting so big now, you're on the card with your own novice or intermediate. You don't get to see that. I don't have the physical capacity to do a whole round and then follow behind the MPO. I just can't physically do it.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you sort of get around that? You want to see those, you know, and as a novice, you need to see those lines. Oh my God, I didn't know a disc could do that.
Yeah.
How do we think about these things to allow people to see this? I mean, it's just, I mean, there's no right or wrong, but it's just something I was thinking.
Claire, that's kind of just started like for many years. Like I think that's only been around maybe in the last 6 months, because previously the first round was definitely always mixed cards. But I think, you know, with being at a nationals, I could see why they want to do it, because I think there was a little bit of controversy one year where, you know, say I went out and played the morning round and it was dead still, and then M went out and played the afternoon round and it was like 40k wins. So I think that come back and said, well, it's not fair that Cass got dead still win, M got 40k win. So grouping your cards together, then they would have the same conditions. So that's
I understand that, but I just think it's something we need to think of, because it's going to be the future. It's going to be, if we want disc golf to grow, this is going to become the norm. And how do you keep people engaged and show them something they've never seen before?
Yeah, right. Like league days are good for that, because it's always random, mixed and stuff like that. So you do get the opportunity to play alongside an amateur, a pro, someone that's fairly new, a junior, which is great. But I would say most A tiers, correct me if I'm wrong, M, would be round one would be mixed cards. I can't see it being like A tiers where it's a new thing that they kind of keep.
Yeah, I think it is a result of tee times needing to keep divisions playing at about the same time, because that tournament in Hobart did show us a few things. But I agree, like playing the smaller tournaments and league days, you're probably going to be playing with mixed cards. Also watching YouTube videos is a great way to see the pros playing, but that's, I guess, not the lines on your local course.
Just
correct.
Just junking one point in on the mixed card, it is a scale. It depends on the tournament size and how many, and sometimes you can have an A tier that is just shotgun start, not tee times. And you know, like at Mundaring, we're experimenting constantly. Sue's leading the charge on that, and we've broken up into the skill bands, which allows for mixed cards but within a relative skill band, and alternate layouts for women, and you know, MA4 versus say MPO. So you can sort of do a hell of a lot with what you got. The point is, larger tournaments, once we hit over the, 100 oh my God mark, we're suddenly into tee times, and it's hard. but you've got to be able to cater for a large number of people. I do get your point, Claire. And I think, you know, when I started out, I spent my time with my mouth hanging open, watching men and women around me throw 100 meters way past my 20 meters throws, you know, and I'm just going, I want to be like all of them. So,
yeah, I agree too. Like it's so good to play with a mix of players, because you can not only teach and learn, like you're also interacting with different people, because you're not, you know, you're constantly going to see the same people at an event in your division, where if you're mixed with different divisions, you're actually going to meet a lot of new faces, and it's good for the sport too. So I do agree.
Like one disc rounds, you know, on your local short course and stuff as well, or to have like a forehand only day or something for your socials, so then that way you've got different lines and stuff to test with your different discs. So instead of, you know, to keep it a bit more fun, you know, to make it more engaging.
Yeah,
social rounds.
I guess it's also a problem with having these small divisions. You might play one of these big tournaments and there's only 3 new divisions, so you play all 3 rounds with the same people. So I guess that's one reason to take on board everything that's been said today, to encourage more women into the sport, so we get those slightly larger divisions.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah.
Could I just make a very quick note to say that Tim Flanders is with us tonight from China. Hello, Tim. Are you still there? It's Tim in China, and I saw him up before, which is pretty amazing. And he's really invested a lot in display and also in women's. Hi, Tim.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you very much. Good to be here and listen to the conversation.
Is it cold over there?
A little bit, yes. We had a warmer spot, and now we've got a bit of a cold patch, and then I think spring will come in a couple of weeks. But I don't want to hijack the discussion.
No, that's okay. I just think if people don't know about Tim, pop on to Facebook and have a look at his profile and what he does. It's refreshing and a revelation to see your commitment and how long it's been going on. Thank you. Sorry,
China Mainland Disc Golf Facebook page. We hope you can come and visit us.
Oh, it looks like there's a question from Alex.
Hey, Cass, I just had a thought. While at Champs, I noticed that your mental game is steely and very undeterred. How do you kind of shut out all the noise? Like, obviously going into an FPO final at Champs down by a couple strokes, you were getting a lot of talking to, like, before the round. How do you shut that out? Or, you know, when you hit a tree, how do you just like brush it off? Because it didn't seem to phase you the whole 3 days. Whereas I hit a tree and I'm you know, holding back a swear word. So how do you actually approach that a part of the game?
I think it comes down to being a mum and a bit of patience within myself. Like I have to, there's times where you want to yell and scream, but, you know, I'm wearing Innova on my back. I'm representing the women of the sport. I'm representing a club. I just want people to know that I'm here to play. Like I want people to see how I play and want to play like me. So setting that example and having that mental headspace is, you know, encouraging for other people to know that it's actually, you can do it. You know, I have people around me that play disc golf and don't have good mental headspace, and it's like, well, I see them and I'm like, well, I don't want to be that person. I want to be, you know, I want to keep my mental game great. I kind of just block what I don't want to see or hear out, and I just do it. I don't think about it. I have so much love for the game that I just want to be the best person that I can be for myself and for others around me. And I think that's just, you know, I went into that last day with 16 years of experience of playing the sport, and I knew what I needed to do. And I did it, but I had people around me encouraging, which, you know, you want that. But for me, it was I really need to pull the best of me out, and that's what happened. Like, I can't really explain it. It was kind of like nearly an out of body experience, really. Like it was just, I don't know, I just turned on to competitive CAS mode. I think we've all got it all in us, like everyone's competitive, but I just went, okay, this is going to be, do you want to be a 7-time Australian champ, or do you want to stay at 6? And I'm like, no, I want it. It's a taste, and it's heads to, like, hats off to Sarah. Like, it was a great fight, but I played my best disc golf, and it has been that round in 16, 17 years that I've been playing, it was the best round of disc golf I've ever played. So, you know, I just pulled it together when I needed to. Crazy.
Right.
It was an out-of-body experience. That's what I'm going to say.
There's a question on here from DG, Drifter's Galaxy. Well, a statement about attracting players who've dropped off over the last 10 years. What can we do?
So I guess one thing that Sue did when she was organising the Women's Global event last year was to reach out to a lot of players like that, to encourage them to play the event, told them about that event, why it was different. Yeah, so I guess that's one thing that can be done. Like, people like an individualised invitation.
Yeah, I think if you are aware of players who haven't played, and we've got a few here in Melbourne, then getting back in touch with them and letting them know what is happening and encouraging them to come along. Look, people move through different phases in their lives. I didn't play for 8 or 9 years, and I don't play much now anyway, but I think, yes, going back and connecting with those people, and that's where networks and communication are happening. Brian Van Allen's playing in Sunday. He'll be in hospital on Monday. Brian Van Allen's my brother, sorry. Anyway, so I think, yes, communicating and networking and getting back in touch with some of those people who have dropped off and seeing where they are in their life, and asking them what they can help contribute given their experience in the past.
So there was also a question in the chat about what unique challenges women have compared to men playing disc golf. I don't know if you've got any ideas about that, Cassie? Or...
So what was that? Sorry, Em, you cut out on my...
Oh, sorry. Some, like, what are the unique challenges for women playing disc golf compared to the men?
I don't think there's any challenges. I think it's like, obviously the lengths of holes is a challenge. Like, you know, your par 13s at 113 meters, we're not going to get there in, you know, you want to have the chance of birdieing every hole. So I think one massive challenge would be lengths of holes for women to men, especially when you're playing those ATs or champ events. That's probably one big one I feel is a disadvantage for women. Anyone else have any thoughts? Throw it out to the group.
So I know when I started playing, one of the pros in the US told me that because women usually will throw a slower speed, and so the wind will affect our discs more. So to really learn how to play in the wind and use the wind to your advantage is a good skill to have.
I've got one. Facilities. Yep. I can't go behind a bush and take a whittle at the 9th tee, unlike the men. You know, men don't think of that as much because it's not as big a problem for them. They can wander off, oh, I'm just going for a pee. I can't wander off and pop a squat. So, you know, it's...
Yeah, I think that as part of the players pack from now on, women's events, what we should do is get one of the companies that have those
lady wee,
the lady wee things, and I think that,
I'm telling you right now, Gail, I would never use one of them. So I actually don't think it's correct. Like in the PDGA
I agree.
guidelines, portaloos should be around. So, and
Absolutely.
if there's not a toilet that's accessible for women, then you need to provide one. I was at Japan Open in 2008. I was on a card with Des Redding, and she went into the bushes whilst playing to wee, and like all of us had to wait for her. But it was just awkward. Like, yeah.
Well,
anyway.
look, I know that when we were in Mundaring, I did it too, because the Portaloo was 3 holes up, and
but it's not just
no
women.
way that I was going to be able to make it, not at my age.
But it's not just women too, it's men.
It's not.
Like, everyone has to do 1s and 2s. So I think if you're playing an 18-hole course where there's only toilet at hole 1 and there's not one on hole 10 or 11, then Portaloos need to be provided. It's plain and simple. Like, it's not fair.
It is.
Yeah, I know
One of the things
we're trying to get more porters out there because it's such a long course too. So for that Pine Lines wooded whole course, it's just massive and it's not fair on us.
No. Sue, sorry, who asked me about what are we spending our money on? With you, Em, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we're doing for the Yarraville course for Stony Creek is because there's no dunny there. There's nothing there, even though there's plans underway that will happen. So we're spending more than we thought we were going to have to spend on Portaloos for each of those days for the women. And look, men are using them too. So we are making sure that happens. And we've got that in the budget for the next round, but they're not cheap for a 1-day hire. They're quite expensive. So, yeah.
I have a question for anyone who may know the answer to this. How do you encourage councils to put a toilet at a course that doesn't have one, when maybe they're trying to avoid unsavory people using them, or whatever reasons they might have? Has anyone got any examples of being successful in convincing a council to put in a course, on a course that obviously is not a club one and is controlled by a council?
If it's not controlled by council, there's no way that they'll do it.
No, if it is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. Then this is where you're going to have to get your lobbying happening and petitions. Clubs, other users get out there and take names down and start collecting names and whatever, and look at it from a health and safety aspect. This toilets can still be open during the day. They can be opened up and then locked up at night, all of that sort of stuff. So this is about lobbying, communicating with all of the users who are around, and just building the momentum for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll give you $5.
All right, I'm aware of the time, so we might wrap it up. But if anyone has any questions, please either join our women's Facebook group, get in contact with me if you're not part of that already, and I can get you in there. Yeah, I'm the secretary of the ADG, so you'll find my email address on the ADG website. Or if you have any questions or suggestions, send them to me or Sue on the board and we can take them there. Thank you very much for all our speakers. I'm sure we've all got a lot to think about and try to implement in our own local areas. And yeah, so there's another one of these workshops happening in a few weeks on the 6th of April about travelling and competing to the World Championships, at the World Championships. So yeah, stay tuned for what is going on. Thank you, everyone.
Before